News Central now begins this hour in the west of Africa, where the presidential candidate of Nigeria's opposition, People's Democratic Party, in the 2023 general elections, Atiku Abubakar, has filed new documents against the incumbent president, Bola Tinubu, before the country's Supreme Court. According to Atiku, the documents accused the president of forgery and lying under oath and should therefore be disqualified and removed from office. The evidence filed by the former vice president was the academic record of the president, which were handed over to him by the Chicago State University on Monday, following the order of an Illinois court in the United States of America, instructing the institution to release the academic records as requested by Atiku Abubakar. The People's Democratic Party's candidate had requested the documents for use in Nigeria's courts to support his argument that Bola Tinubu forged a certificate he claimed to have obtained from the Chicago State University in 1979 and submitted to the country's electoral body, the Independent National Electoral Commission, for use in the 2023 presidential election. To discuss this further, we're joined live by Justice Ojienoh. He is a lawyer. Justice Ojienoh, thank you very much for your time.
It's my pleasure to join you.
You've been obviously following the academic qualification controversy of Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and the latest that has developed so far. What's your overall reaction to the situation?
Okay, for me, I think that I'm neither here nor there. The fact that elections don't even end when the umpire calls whoever a person, the victor or the loser, is unpalatable to me. The fact that we have to escalate and say go to courts and litigate it to the hill from the trial court to the Supreme Court, and now we are even going extraterrestrial. We are going beyond the shores of Nigeria to litigate. For me, it's a shame. We need to get to a situation where when the umpire calls, a true and just umpire says this person is the winner, one person should just give the other person a call and wish the other person well, just like we saw during Jonathan Buhari period. So that's just my general take on how this is going. I think it's messy. I think it's untoward. It's not something I really am happy about.
The People's Democratic Party, we hear, have proceeded to Nigeria's Supreme Court with fresh documents that they obtained from the Chicago University that they say should prove that the Nigerian president was not qualified to run for office. How do you see this playing out from a legal perspective?
Okay, for me, first, if it's as per what the Supreme Court will decide, it's a question that ethically I'm not in a good place to actually answer, because the matter is going to be litigated in this particular issue is going to be litigated in the Supreme Court in a couple of days' time, and every lawyer that is ethical, every lawyer that knows his onion cannot even touch it with a long spoon. No lawyer should say, okay, this is the way the Supreme Court should decide it, or that is the way the Supreme Court should decide it. It is very, very wrong. And it's unfortunate that we have descended into this situation where everybody just postulates and says that if the Supreme Court decides it in a certain way, the Supreme Court is either a just court, and if it decides it the other way, the Supreme Court is a terrible court. I think that that's not a place that we should be. We should try as much as possible to have some level of confidence in our judiciary, because the day we feel that we don't even have a judiciary, all our judicial officers are corrupt, that's the day we cease to have a government, because without the judiciary, the legislature and the executive is nothing. The judiciary is basically the sentinel when it comes to the rule of law, and the day the rule of law is totally capsized, that's the day there will be chaos that is of momentous and humongous proportions that nobody will even be able to survive in a society.
Justice, should Nigerians be worried over these happenings? Given the fact that most citizens do not have confidence in the country's judiciary.
It's unfortunate that we find ourselves in this place where everybody you have too many crisis actors. You have too many people who are just reading conspiracy theories about. I don't think that Nigerians should be worried. We should have confidence in the judiciary because at the end of the day, it is the only judiciary that we have. We should have confidence in the judiciary. We should have confidence that justice will be done. It is not in all situations and scenarios that whatever it is we want from the judiciary that we get. In fact, the way the judiciary is designed is a 50-50 game most times. So every meaning that 50 persons will always win while 50 persons lose. So the losers should also take it should always take it in great stride. And every time they lose, it is not necessarily because the judiciary is corrupt. So some factors determine who wins or loses in a litigation. It can be the way the laws are stacked, which I feel is majorly an issue in this scenario. I'm not the first one to say that the Evidence Act and the current Electoral Act makes it extremely hard for anybody who is suing a person who has already taken an office to be able to even get to that office. Pat Achalonu, JSC of blessed memory, said far back in Buhari and Obasanjo, I think in a matter reported in 2005, that for you to be able to win a presidential election petition, you need at least 250,000 to 300,000 witnesses. So if that was the law, then the law that we have now is even more restrictive when it comes to a person actually winning whoever has taken over a particular office, most of the times wrongfully. So those are the things that we should revisit. Sometimes too, who loses can be a matter of lawyering. It can be the way the lawyers approach it. It can be the witnesses presented. Have the witnesses been properly vetted? Have they been properly prepared to be able to go take the stance and give proper testimony? A lot of things go into winning and losing of cases, and it is not necessarily the judiciary. And please let nobody take this as me holding brief for the judiciary. We have some corrupt elements in the judiciary, but it's not as pervasive as most people are making it seem. So I think that we should come back to logic, because I go back to the words of Dave Carnegie that says that where there is a clash between emotions and logic, it is emotions that always win. As much as possible, we should douse the emotions that is really electrifying the air and in a highly disproportionate manner. And we should as much as possible come back, focus on the facts, focus on the law, focus on the interpretation and the application of the laws and the facts, and give some credence to the judiciary wherever the judiciary has actually done well. And we shouldn't just always give a blank slate that if the judiciary doesn't decide my way, then the judiciary is corrupt.
Justice, some have, chipped in. Some of your colleagues have chipped in with their opinion on whether this fresh evidence can be admitted in court, bearing in mind that this is the Supreme Court you're talking about, and it's not a trial court. This is the last court of appeal, or last appeal court. What's your view on this new evidence being brought into the Atiku petition, which wasn't there before?
Okay, as much as possible, I have to be very, very careful, but I'll just draw a broad stroke. There are times when appellate courts, or of course, the Supreme Court is an appellate court in this matter, can also still address fresh evidence. But whether this is one of such occasions is a matter that left to the Supreme Court to eventually decide at the end of the day, after the fireworks of lawyering on both sides. So I think that as much as possible, we should keep our gunpowder dry. We should pray that the lawyers do a yeoman's job as to whether the Supreme Court should admit this particular exhibit into evidence or not. And we know, and I honorably expect that the Supreme Court will, at the end of the day, do justice to the matter and decide with the best lawyering and the best that the best lawyers who are on the set would actually argue best and present a better case before them.
The People's Democratic Party's presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, extended his hand to his counterparts or opponents, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso of the NNPP and Peter Gregory B of the Labour Party to join him in this quest. Both gentlemen have not heeded to that call by Atiku Abubakar, and both of them didn't pick up this certificate issue to use in their petition. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, for me, I think it is actually inconsequential because at the end of the day, whether they join him or not, whether they are 1,000 lawyers, whether his lawyers, whether their lawyers join his own lawyers, or whether they are 1,000 lawyers or 10,000 lawyers, at the end of the day, the argument is gonna be brokered by just one lawyer on his side. So if what by them joining him, it means that the legal firework or the legal firepower should join the legal firepower, I think it is too late in the day. But when if by that them joining him, it means that they should join his political machinery. I think he's doing a good job because the politicians should always seek for other influential people to join him in order for him to be able to get victory. But if it is only as to them joining him in the legal matter, it is too late in the day. It is only Chris Uche, the leader of Chris Uche, senior advocate of Nigeria, the leader of his legal team that can actually get the audience to actually plead his case before the court.
All right. In the event that Atiku Abubakar has his way and the Supreme Court rules, this is just a scenario. We want to understand what the law says about all this. The Supreme Court rules that the certificate presented to INEC by Bola Ahmed Tinubu was, quote, forged, as Atiku is claiming. What happens next, going by the electoral law and the Constitution?
Okay, because it is the final court in the matter, because it is the Supreme Court, most likely, if the matter is decided based on qualification or disqualification, the fact of forgery and lying under oath, if the matter is decided on that in favor of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the only consequence of that is that the Alhaji Atiku Abubakar will have to be sworn in as the new president, pursuant to him being the party in the candidate that polled the second number of votes. And it will be too late in the day for anybody to be able to challenge his victory or his qualification or any other thing, because at that point, election petition litigation will have been closed.
All right, Justice, thank you very much for your time. We'll watch to see what happens in the coming days, weeks, as we anticipate that verdict from the court, the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Justice Ojienoh, a Nigerian lawyer, joined us from Lagos, Nigeria.